You're listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
1-2 on Verdugo. The Dodgers a strike away from a championship, from a proper celebration. Start the party, Los Angeles! Your Dodgers have won the World Series!
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, coming to you on a special Friday episode. This is for Friday, November the 8th, 2024. And happy anniversary to my wife, Allison, and I. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary. Very excited to get to this major milestone with her and looking forward to many, many more years of awesome marriage with her. And happy birthday to my sister-in-law, Jackie, if she's listening as well. So happy birthday, Jackie. So today, as you just heard from the opening clip, we're celebrating the 8th championship in Dodgers franchise history, winning their 8th World Series championship. Very excited to dive into this topic. Very excited to finally celebrate it properly. And of course, to commemorate this very special occasion in sports, the best thing for me to do would be to gather good family friends and family members to join me to discuss this momentous occasion in LA sports history. So to do so, Nick and Tad Turner, Jeff Haskins, and my older brother Fernando all join me, and we discuss many awesome things related to this past season for the Dodgers. Of course, we go over the World Series extensively. World Series MVP Freddie Freeman, his iconic walk-off grand slam to win Game 1. It's a really awesome, great conversation. And then, of course, we also dive into some Fernando Valenzuela talk, because we commemorate and celebrate his life as he's just recently passed away. So it's really cool just to have a great conversation about this current Dodger team, Dodger history, the Fernando Mania. It's all packed into this awesome podcast. So I'm really excited to, again, talk to Dodgers, but especially to talk to Dodgers with my brothers and good friends. And it's a really awesome time. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into it. This is the Casting for Fun podcast. We're celebrating the 8th World Series championship victory for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
From the side bay to the valley, from the west side to the east side, everybody very happy, 'cause the sun is shining all the time. It's like another perfect day. I love LA.
So it's always a pleasure to have really awesome, great friends, guests on the show. Nick Turner, Tad Turner, Jeff Haskins. Gentlemen, how's everyone doing tonight?
Excellent.
Wonderful.
It's always a blast to have all of us on just for any reason whatsoever. But when we're celebrating a World Series victory for the Dodgers, I mean, just extra, extra special. So
I agree.
very nice, very nice. So much to go over, so much to talk about just this past season. So I'm really excited to dive into it. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to ask you, Jeff, personally, because obviously you were in your 20s during the 80s. So I definitely want to pick your brain and get your take on the whole history of Fernando Valenzuela during the height of Fernando Mania at that time, because the rest of us would be a little too young to really, I think, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So let's dive into it now. So World Series champions for 2024. We finally get our much deserved parade, and extra sweet, I think, to do it again.
It was.
It was actually interesting to read. I mean, just in the vast history of baseball, that the Dodgers and the Yankees have faced each other in the World Series more times than any other team. So, I mean, that's a matchup I think MLB definitely wanted, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Two largest markets, too.
And it's
Exactly.
crazy-
Yeah, the
it's
most
crazy that
profitable markets.
Right. And it's crazy that it hadn't happened in, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Almost,
That's
Yeah. But
Yeah,
even with
it's-
that, it's still the most common matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this time around it was definitely the two best teams in baseball.
Ooh,
Definitely.
I don't
I
know
think
about
so.
that.
What do you? Yeah, who are you thinking?
So
I
have
think
you
he's
guys? Well, have you heard of, well, I'm not, I don't know who I would say the second best team is, but have you heard the story that the New York Post put out by Joel Sherman about the Dodgers scouting report on the Yankees?
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Um, Basically, no. The scouting report was they're very talented, but they lack a lot of fundamentals of the game. I'm putting it in my own words. Um, and that if you make them play baseball,
Yeah.
they'll make errors, and that really like they can swing the ball. But like as far when it comes down to just playing the game of baseball, they're just talented, but they're not as skilled as
They're
lots of other teams.
individually talented. Like
Yeah.
everyone's afraid of Aaron Judge and whatever the other dude's name is, Juan Soto. They're all afraid of, and Giancarlo Stanton, obviously. They're scared of those guys individually, but put them together, and you got Anthony Rizzo holding a ball somewhere between first and second base, waiting for a pitcher that never covers first, right?
Well, I think that article also said that I mean the Yankees just don't work on defense.
Yeah.
They don't practice defense.
Mm,
I mean, I would say I think San Diego was much better than the Yankees.
mm.
Then I heard the other
Uh,
day that that's what they were saying. Once they beat San Diego, Dave Roberts told Mookie Betts, like, we won. Like the Mets, no big deal. Yankees, no big deal. That talent wise and competition wise.
Didn't
Here,
it
okay,
I'll
I
read.
seem
think
like didn't it seem like all year we were just waiting for someone else to go down with an injury?
oh
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, we had so many pieces to that puzzle that fit so well together that it didn't seem to matter. I loved it when Kiki Hernandez would take third base and Muncy would run first base, for instance, when Freddie Freeman needed a break. I thought that was a great matchup because they're both
Hmm.
so athletic and so talented at those positions.
Let me just read two paragraphs from the article. It says what the Dodgers told their players in scouting meetings was the Yankees were talent over fundamentals. That if you run the bases with purpose and aggression, the Yankees will self-inflict harm, as was exposed by Betts, Tommy Edman, Freddie Freeman, etc. That the value was very high to put the ball in play to make the Yankees execute. They mentioned that the Yankees were not just the major's worst base running team by every metric, but the difference was vast on the field between them and the Padres, who the Dodgers beat in the NL Division Series, but were impressive in this area. They were thrilled at how short Yankee leads were at first base to potentially be less of a threat on pivots at second where Gavin Lux does not excel. They said their metrics had the Yankees as the worst position outfield. They were amazed how many times relay throws came skittering through the infield with no one taking charge, and how often Jazz Chisholm Jr., for example, was out of place or just standing still when a play was in action. And so, like, it's actually recently on the internet, it's caused some spur or pissed off Yankee fans because Dodgers are saying, like, basically saying like, nah, like they weren't the best team. They weren't even like a top four team when it comes to really playing the game.
Well,
Because they
I think you
failed in all these areas. They just can hit the ball.
well, I mean, you saw it all series long. I mean, they could hit home runs, but they didn't hit very well with men in scoring position. They made a ton of base running mistakes. I mean, even
Yeah.
outside of the defense, there's that I can't remember what game it was, but that play where Rizzo just stops on
Yeah.
his way to second. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
can you imagine? I mean, the teams that at least I grew up watching, in the 80s, can you imagine not hustling to second to try to break up a double play?
Right.
Or I mean, he just quit on it and thought, well, I thought he was going to get me, so I stopped running. I mean, that to me, it just shows. I think mentally they were weak, fundamentally they were weak, and I think that it showed all series long. They could hit the ball, but in the margins, they just weren't very good.
It
Yeah.
sure seems scary to me though that those guys could get up and do damage with one swing of the bat, at any given time. It just seemed like we were just waiting for Judge to break loose and start, killing us on that. I
I
wasn't,
agree. Every time he got up to bat, it was like, please
yeah,
don't let that happen. But we had our own players, and that's kind of one of the other points of the article, Jeff, was that like And in the AL, the Yankees could get away with that. But when you play a team that has the same power, now
Mm,
what separates you? When
yeah,
you have another team that can put runs up, what's going to separate you is like playing the game on defense, and how Mookie Betts practices balls off the wall. And
yeah,
so, what,
yeah,
twice they hit a ball off the wall and only got a single
yep,
instead of a
yeah.
double because, Mookie practices that every day. Um, and not
Well, look at
everyone
that
does that.
Teoscar Hernandez throw from left field to get
Yes.
That
Stanton at
was something
home.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it
and
was right on the money.
right, and I love how after the game they asked him about the throw, and he said, "Well, that's something I worked on all year to improve my defense."
Hmm.
Yeah, it was impressive.
It's
You know what? The
oh,
Dodgers
sorry.
played together as a team, and I think if you get it all working together, I was very relieved when they got past the Padres. I really do. I agree with you. That was definitely, but that's just because the Padres and the Giants, they always seem to have our number. It just seems like, they stink up a storm with everyone else, and then they they really rise to the occasion whenever we're in town.
Well, and coming into this playoffs, to me, it seemed like the Padres had the best pitching staff coming
Yeah.
in. They were deep,
Mm.
and that's what was scary. Was we were banged up, they were deep. So, I mean, getting through that series was huge.
Yeah. That's some
Was.
good managing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
point though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ted. Go ahead, Ted.
well, it's funny. I like what Jeff said. I remember Tommy Lasorda used to always say, when you can get a team to play for the name on the front of the jersey and not the name on the back,
Yeah.
you got something special. And I
Yeah.
think you saw that with this team. They cared
Definitely.
about each other. They cared about the fans. Nothing was going to keep them from winning. And you saw the hustle, taking the extra base, making
Yeah.
the right play. I mean, they won the World Series on a sacrifice fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And they
Right.
The
did
little
it.
things.
Dave Roberts has said time and time again how much he loves those guys.
Yeah.
And you can really tell that he cares for each and every one of them. And I've never really watched any other team from a home team perspective, but I don't see that coming from anybody else. But maybe Dusty Baker. Bruce Bochy is kind of scary, sort of, I mean, but Dusty Baker, I think, really loved his players and took care of his players. I think Dave Roberts was. I think Mike Scioscia might have. I don't know. I just think he had horrible players, but Dave Roberts, he's the man there. He had that. Those bullpen games that he put together were amazing, and you can't say that he didn't put in the second stringers, the JV, um, in that first bullpen game against the Yankees. Holding
I
guys,
think,
guys.
I think, I think this was the best he handled the pitching staff in the playoffs that
Oh
I've
yeah,
ever seen him do.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean, he
agree.
made every right move. He went with his gut over analytics more this playoffs, and it seemed
Yeah,
like everything he did worked perfectly.
yeah, it was excellent.
Like when he went out, was it in game 5 and turning in eighth inning? And I was like, oh, taking him out. He's
Mm,
crap.
mm,
But gave him that push on the chest, like I believe in you.
mm.
I finally was like, all right, way to show the guys you trust him, you believe in him. He doesn't walk out to the field without making a pitcher change, right? So I
Right.
totally thought typical Dave Roberts.
Yeah,
Um, and I felt we had it at that moment.
yeah. But
I was
he
like,
never gave he
finally.
never gave the sign to the bullpen.
Yep.
He never turned and went. Did the thing where he does to call for another pitcher. That
I mean, I
was
thought it was interesting. Game 4, he pitched three rookies,
yeah,
three rookies and one veteran. I've never seen him do something like that before.
yeah,
Um, but they were in it. I mean, they were in it right up until the very end of that game, and then the Yankees kind of blew it out. But I was just impressed with the way he handled the staff.
yeah. I enjoyed watching
I-
Gratterall come back and pitch, and Vesia too. Vesia was amazing. He really
Yeah,
rose to the occasion.
lights out
Yeah,
all year.
yeah, I was so
And his passion. It's hard to not love
yeah,
his passion.
right.
yeah, definitely. That goes for Bonda. That goes for all of them, really. There wasn't a clinker in the bunch. I wish I could have seen Joe Kelly pitch. in the World Series, just because I love watching that dude play baseball.
Yeah.
You know, the stance he takes, and just making that ball dance, whether it hits the plate or not. It's pretty amazing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But he was interviewed, and he said that he actually stayed in the bullpen throughout the entire series and traveled with the team, of course, even though he wasn't on the roster, to lend his support and to give him some insight, things that he saw. And Clayton Kershaw was the same thing from the dugout. He was helping the managing, from the perspective of seeing something on the base pads that maybe no one else noticed, or helping that way, like Bob Guerin, being the encyclopedia of baseball right there. He was helping the whole time.
Well, I mean, you take those two pitchers and Kurt, and I mean, multiple World Series appearances. So a lot of experience there that it's just invaluable in those kind of series and games.
Yeah.
Even if you're not playing. Yeah.
Definitely. No, that's cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll tell you, this postseason, the whole year, we really enjoyed watching the games from here. I went to get my oil changed. No, I'm sorry. I went to get my car inspected so that I could get it registered in Texas. And the guy said, "So California, huh? You're from California?" I said, yeah, I sure am. He said, "You watch much baseball?" I said, "Oh yeah." And I immediately pulled the Corey Seager card out of my pocket and said, "Yeah, I love Corey Seager, man. I love what he's doing with the Rangers and stuff. I watched him since he was a pup, that kind of thing." And so so nobody scratched my car in there.
Oh, very nice.
You ever get that, man? I couldn't get my California plates off my car fast enough.
And it's so easy to do here also.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh, very cool. Well, an aspect that we haven't touched on just yet, which obviously maybe was one of the most iconic moments of the entire postseason and the whole season in general, would have been Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam. It's kind of funny too, like as soon as it happened, Nick and I were messaging, and I even mentioned to him, I wasn't even totally unaware that it had never even happened in a World Series game before. So it was very cool to witness that historical moment first and foremost. And then, hey, it was a Dodger who did it first, and it was Freddie Freeman who did it first. So for the podcast, I want to go ahead and insert that audio just because I can kind of steal clips from YouTube and put it in. So let's go ahead and relive that moment right now.
Freeman. But again, all the talk about the superstar at the top of the order. These guys, these former MVPs themselves, a lot of chances funnel to them. And the bases will be loaded here for Freddie Freeman with the Dodgers down 3-2 and down to their last out in game one.
Well, the good news here for Dodgers is Freddie Freeman doesn't necessarily have to do anything but get a single and jog to first. But beating something out in the ground will be limited because of his ankle.
Now, the kind of at-bat that every kid that plays baseball dreams of one day having. You tell yourself, right, all right, bottom of the 10th, bases loaded, World Series, one-run game, Dodgers, Yankees. Reality for Freddie Freeman right here. Taylor the tying run, Edman the winning run. Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby, meet Freddie. Game one of the World Series.
Yeah. So I just love it. I mean, it's one of those plays that we'll be talking about for decades to come. I mean, definitely up there with Kirk Gibson's iconic one from '88. So do you guys, obviously it's one of those cool things, like you can, years from now, we'll be able to tell our kids and grandkids, hey, this is where we were when it happened. But it's kind of funny. I remember Nick and I were discussing this too, like for the longest time, and we all know this, that the Dodgers weren't necessarily very good. So it kind of freed up October's, like around Halloween time. And, you knew that Dodgers weren't going to be in it. So you can do Halloween stuff. But now it's kind of been tough. It's like, Dodgers playing so well the past like decade or so. And with young kids, it's like, oh, do you have another Halloween party? Oh, come on. How many Halloween parties do you guys need? So sure enough, they did have a party that night, but we made it home in time so I could see that play. So it was just a totally memorable experience for me and my family.
Wait,
Yeah,
how many
I
times
missed.
have you guys watched it? That's what I want to know.
Why I
Rewatch
missed.
that.
I missed it when it happened.
Oh,
We
really?
had
Oh,
a we had a someone pass away in the ward, and I was setting up for a funeral. So I had my earpiece in, I was listening, but it was behind. So I didn't know this at the time, but there was a group of volleyball players who were in the culture hall before we were setting up. They had gone into the nursery room at the Foothill building and had a projector. They had the game going. So I just heard people freaking out.
Hmm.
And so I went running in there and I didn't, yeah, everyone was jumping up and down and I thought he just got a base hit.
Hmm.
And they were like, no, he hit a home run. I mean, but because I had to wait because I swear they didn't play that replay for like 4 minutes after he hit it. So I was in there going like, come on, I want like replay it. I want to see
that's
it so
true.
bad. Yeah.
That was cool. He set a couple of MLB records with that hit. Plus, didn't he hit in home run in multiple games of more than anyone else?
Seven
Consecutive.
straight
Seven consecutive games. He hit a home
World
run
Series. Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
postseason. Yeah, yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I
All,
remember
all,
when. Okay.
no, you go, Jeff.
I was just going to talk about Kirk Gibson. I heard someone talk about the fact that he actually hit that ball on the same night at like close to the same time of the
8:37 p.m. Pacific time, right? It was like I think was it the exact same minute?
it was like the exact same minute. Joe Davis was commentating. He mentioned that it was the same minute of the same day of the year.
To the right field, both
Yep.
injured.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, Kirk Gibson with his leg, Freddie Freeman with his ankle.
Yep. Yeah.
Lot of similarities, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
it's funny,
Gibson, I think, was the
Nick
worst.
said, I think I've watched both of them, gosh, in the last week, probably
Yeah.
20
10 to
times.
15. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they're so similar, but they're so different at the same time. Like the drama leading up to Kirk Gibson's home run, I mean, is so different,
Mhm.
because he's fouling balls off. He can barely run. And
Yeah.
then he hits that home run. Whereas, I mean, you almost couldn't even take a breath with Freddie Freeman's home run. And it was
First
like,
pitch.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just crushed that thing.
I think Gibson's at bat was like 8 minutes.
It was long.
Yeah.
It was long.
It took a
Well,
long
and
time. He was getting treatment in the training room for the entire game. He wasn't even supposed to be playing.
Yep.
I just watched a video where he talks about the home run and he says, yeah, he goes, I just recently rewatched the replay. And I think the other thing that, at least for me, will probably always put the Kirk Gibson home run kind of a little bit above the Freddie Freeman is Vin Scully on the call.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
Kirk Gibson
yeah.
talks about how he goes, man, he goes, going back and rewatching it and listening to Vin Scully narrate that at bat.
Yeah.
He said, even as the guy who hit the home run, he said it just made it so much better.
Mhm.
He said that guy could just tell a story and suck you in. And I thought Joe Davis's call was very good, but it's just
Yeah.
so hard to compete with any Vin Scully moment.
Joe Davis came close. He remember,
Yeah.
his improvised line about
Yeah.
Freddie meet Gibby, right off the bat, just like that, with no context, not
Well,
knowing that
and he said the she is gone, like Vin Scully did in the Kirk Gibson home run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really good.
Yeah. I
It
like
was
Joe
in,
Davis. I think he does a good job.
I like him too.
Yeah.
it
I
was
think
interesting.
we're lucky.
Mhm.
We are. It was interesting for me because my girl's kids, she wasn't gonna let them stay up, and I'm like, this is the World Series. Actually, and this goes back to last year when the Rangers were in the World Series, and she was like, "Go to bed," and I'm like, "What do you mean? Like this is their home team." and it's the
Yeah.
World Series, so I'm letting them stay up whether you want to or not, because it's their home team. So, and last year I'm like that Kirk Gibson home run for me was like it's still one of the most amazing
Mm,
experiences, more like one of the first major sports memories in my
mhm,
life also. And so she knows that. So like that game,
mm,
same thing, like no, we're letting them stay up. Uh and they can watch it. And then I'm explaining to him how when I was his age,
mhm,
we won a World Series off of a home run by a guy that was injured.
mm.
And then it happened, and I got the chills, just like,
Yeah.
and to this day, when I watch the Gibson home run, I get the chills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get the chills now when I watch the Freddie Freeman home run. I just got it again, Albert, when we watched it.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, same thing, like jumping up and down. And then after they interviewed everything, he's like, "What's the big deal?" Like, well, it's never been done. And so then I
Yeah.
put the Gibson home run on, and he got bored with it because it's such
Yeah.
a long at bat. He's like,
Well,
"I need to go to bed. It's late." I'm like, "Just wait. This is where it's worth it."
but I think you're right, especially with Dodger baseball. I mean, I wasn't at home, but my wife and daughter were watching the game at home. She stayed up. I mean, it's that kind of stuff is generational for guys like us.
Yeah.
My daughter was freaking out that Freddie Freeman hit the. I mean, she loves baseball, but kind of like Nick saying with the Kirk Gibson home run. I mean, that stuck with her. I mean, she was so excited that a player that she loved this season hit the home run. I mean, it's I love that, right? Generational.
Amazing plays happen all the time throughout the season. I mean, you see highlight reels on SportsCenter and stuff.
Hmm.
Amazing catches. Cody Bellinger jumping up 14 feet in the air and robbing Tatis of a home run in a regular season game. But this was the World Series, and
Right.
it just focuses everything like this into that little time frame. And the fact that it happened during that, I mean, look, the only grand slam to end a game in World Series history.
Hmm.
You know, it's because it's the World Series. It's like the Super
Well,
Bowl.
gosh, dang, when he puts that bat up into the air
Yeah.
the way he
Yep.
did, I mean that right, that to me, that was like the Kurt Gibson pump going around second
Yeah.
base. That's one of those things we'll always remember.
Yeah.
He put that
Beautiful
bat up.
sound. Beautiful
Yeah.
sound coming off his bat. Definitely.
It'll make a perfect statue someday too,
Yeah.
having the bat in there.
Well, and right, and a guy I love, I think it was Mookie Betts who said it. I think it was him. He was saying that when it may not have been him, it was one of the guys on the team. They said, oh, it was Muncy. He said, usually when guys hit a home run, he said, I don't watch the ball, I watch the player.
Mhm.
Because he
Right.
said the player will tell you if you really got it or not. He
Mhm.
Right.
says, then I look up at the ball. He said that the only person that doesn't apply to is Freddie Freeman. He
Mhm.
says when that guy hits home runs during the regular season, he just puts the bat down and he starts running. So
Mhm.
he said when Freddie lifted that bat up, that's why
Mhm.
the dugout freaks out because he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So I mean that told everybody he knew he got all of it and the game was over.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really cool to hear a player talk about it like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm also gonna say the moment that happened, I was sitting on the couch. I'm like, we just won with the grand
Mhm.
slam against the
Mhm.
Yankees. And I
Mhm.
was like, we're gonna beat the crap out of these
Yeah,
guys. We're gonna
series
win.
over. Series
I was
over.
like,
Yeah.
I believed it from that moment, that we're gonna beat them. Like we're gonna win this. It might take 7 games, but like that has to be crushing.
Mhm.
But I mean
I knew it. I knew it from Ice Cube. Ice Cube put it best. Bow down to a team that's superior.
Yeah.
but it's so funny to think about the similarities still from the 1988 game one to 2024 game one, right? The runs that the A's, from what I remember, in game one scored in 88 were a Canseco home run. It was a grand
Mhm.
slam.
Yeah.
Those are the only 4 runs they scored, right?
Mhm.
The Yankees, what they scored on the big home run, that was
Mhm.
where they got the majority of their runs. They scored that one late, and then the walk off to end it. I mean, almost so similar that my first thought was, remember what Gibson's home run did to the A's psychologically?
Right.
That series was over.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, you could see a similar look in the Yankees' eyes as you saw in that A's team from '88 after that home
Mhm.
run. They gave the Dodgers everything they had. They had the lead late, and then boom, the game was over, just like that.
And by the way, if it's a single and they lose, they're they're not as their head's
No.
still high, but giving up a granny.
That was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And what did they say? Freddie Freeman hadn't hit an extra base hit.
In
I
like
mean, it
2
had been,
months or
yeah. I mean, it was because of the injuries, he didn't have a single extra base hit. So walking Mookie Betts made all the sense in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
he led the league with men in scoring position this year, and then Freeman just kills you.
yeah.
Had to be demoralizing because
No.
technically they did what was right. They played it the
Right.
right way
Mhm.
and still lost.
That time off, really.
Mm-hmm.
That week off. That's all they needed.
Mhm. And actually, to that point, Nick, I wanted to insert some audio clips now with Freddie talking about that very same point after the series was over and he was officially awarded MVP of the World Series. So let me throw in another YouTube clip here that talks about just that same point.
How are you? Freddie Freeman sitting down to join us. Well, I just had the pleasure of talking to Freddie. So why don't you guys have a chance to talk to our MVP here? Family is back.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, what's unbelievable is we had no idea of your status. You had a bum ankle.
Yeah.
Sometimes you played, then you would take a day off. We were up here wondering what was happening. And all of a sudden, in the World Series, you turn into Big Papi. How'd you do it?
I'm telling you, those days off in between, like I've said, were huge. I felt like in the NLDS and the NLCS, there's a fence, and I was always on the other side of it, trying to get the pain and my ankle swelling on that all down, and I could never just get in front of it. And those few days helped me get on this side of the fence and got me in a great spot where I could work on my swing in those few days, and I found a cue, and it worked.
Freddie, congratulations,
Thank you.
man. I mean, you have been amazing for the ball club.
Thank you.
And you know how much I really love watching you play. But I want you to explain to people at home, because I've been trying to, but I never get quite there. I want you to try to explain people what it's been on the zone, because every time you step at the plate, bro, it was like something happened before it happened.
Yeah. I wish I could explain the zone. I really do. But you just get into one of those zones where everything seems to slow down just enough. You're swinging at the right pitches. You're taking the balls. Just like before I got the hit, you foul off the pitches that you need to foul off. That's the big thing, is it's buying another pitch. And that changeup I fouled off before I got the hit, that's what it was about. That sometimes is the zone, is to just get another pitch. You foul off the pitcher's pitch, and I was able to take them, foul off pitches, and hit the mistakes this series.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to give you just a little bit of advice. Going into next season, sprain your ankle right before opening day, and then we'll see how the whole season
Derek,
plays out
has
for
been
you,
a lot
man.
to get through. Get ready for these games.
But answer this
I gotta do
question.
it healthy.
Answer this question for me.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Dodgers over the last few years, always very, very talented.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the toughness of this team, because that's why you won.
Yeah.
You get to this point in the postseason, everyone's talented.
Yeah. I mean, from day one, you could just tell this group was close. Credit to Andrew and Mark Walter and Brandon Gomes, everyone for bringing in the right pieces, because it's a puzzle and you got to put the right ones in. And they did a great job. And we seem to hit every speed bump along the way this course of this year. And we just kept riding right over that speed bump. And, I mean, we had the best record in all of baseball in the regular season, and we just carried it right through in this postseason.
Freddie, we're going to let you go enjoy it with your family.
Yeah.
But before we do, just want to show the fans at home, you got a chance to hug your dad. And we've talked about it on this show, that bond. What did this moment mean to you?
Everything. Like I said, I'm sure you guys have seen, I'm not sitting here without him. This is his moment. All those batting practice, his arm, so you can hardly get his right arm up. He has no cartilage left. But it's special, and to be able to share it with him in this setting means everything. It does. It really does.
Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you, Derek.
Congrats,
Thank you,
man.
David.
Unbelievable.
Freddie, go celebrate, my man. Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, so lots of great stuff that Freddie touches on in that interview clip with the broadcast team for Fox Sports, which I thought was really, really awesome. Just the amount of health benefits it comes from just taking those time off and, healing his body and being able to, practice and do the things he needed to do to get better. And then I just love hearing the story about him and his dad. I mean, they talked about it a lot during the postseason. It was really heartwarming, I think, to hear about that. That he lost his mom when he was 10. I didn't know that before the season, and that he almost lost his dad too, but that his dad was able to be there to share that moment with them. I thought that was a really, really cool stuff, really great stuff to hear. And then, Derek Jeter mentioned as well, as we already touched on it. Yes, in the World Series or in the playoffs, every team is talented, but it's the fundamentals, it's the toughness, it's to being able to execute and play the game of baseball is what actually separates contenders from being world champions.
I think you said it perfectly.
Can you believe that Atlanta just let him go?
Right.
And the Red Sox let Mookie Betts go.
Yeah. But but the funny thing, at least the Red Sox traded and got something in return for Mookie Betts. But the Braves just went out and signed a different first baseman and let a Hall of Famer just leave. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
But how stupid does that GM look right now?
Yeah.
It's part of the game.
You never know. They have analytics that they use to do this. Max Muncy was DFA'd from the A's, from the lowly Oakland A's.
But now just the Athletics now, right? They officially dropped Oakland from their name.
Well, I don't know what the heck their name is. You know what I mean?
No one still cares. But.
Yeah, exactly. But they told Max Muncy, you're not a good enough baseball player to play for us, so you can go home or to another team. And look what he's become under the watchful care of the management of the Dodgers. Even that I call him the Dode. I'll have to tell you guys off screen why I call him the Dode. Justin Turner, the redhead third baseman, he was just let go from the Mets back in the day. Or did they trade for him? I think the Mets let him go.
Yeah, he signed a minor league deal when he came to the Dodgers.
Right, yeah.
We weren't even sure if he would make the team.
Yeah.
Precisely, and he became a pretty instrumental part of the team, of their leadership and stuff.
An all-star. He became an all-star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is still my favorite thing because the Turner name is now forever linked to Dodger baseball championship. Just saying. Him
and Trey Turner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Trey Turner too. Yeah. Yep. I miss that guy too.
Yeah. I don't miss him that much anymore because we won.
Oh yeah. No, you can't. Yeah, you can't. You know what? I start watching these guys, and at my age, it's almost like you're watching your kids play. Like I said, like Jock Peterson, Trace Thompson, Cody Bellinger, all these guys that got traded away, and I think, oh, why couldn't? When I was a kid, Dodgers were Dodgers forever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like people got traded. That infield stayed together for since I can remember.
Yeah, well, I think they're still the longest tenured infield in baseball history.
I think you're right. Yeah. It just seems like but you know something? You can't argue with the success that they've had.
Free agency.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh, very nice. Good. Well, one other topic that I wanted to bring up, and again, I kind of like this. We're celebrating the Dodgers, but I kind of also love bashing Yankee fans. I want to bring up the incident with Mookie Betts and the fan in the outfield. But it was kind of interesting to learn too that apparently he wasn't just some random nobody. Apparently, this guy went to college with Rob Gronkowski, right? So, but I want to bring that up. So it's an interview clip that Mookie Betts talks to, again, the same Fox Sports team after the World Series had ended. So let's bring this up.
Oh, wow.
Wow. World Championship,
Mookie Betts.
Woo, woo.
I had to make sure I come see my boys.
You did it, man.
Yeah,
you did it.
Yeah, we did. That was a group effort for sure.
Brother.
That was unbelievable, man.
My goodness, man. Congratulations once again, kid.
Thank you, sir.
Man.
That was
wow.
wild. That was wild.
How does he feel, man? What is your head at right now?
Man, that was a lot of emotions and being down 5 early, and they came out swinging. And as you knew they would. And Kike said it in the second inning. We had a lot of ball to play. All we had to do was score one. Score one, and then we go from there. And we were able to score one. I know there was they kind of helped us out a little bit, but hey, you get it. You got to do what you got to do. And at that point, we were just kept applying pressure.
You scored one. They scored 4 for you.
Yeah, right.
But my question, Mookie, you're the only active player with 3 World Series title. I mean, what does this one mean to you compared to some of the others?
I mean, obviously, you know, all of them are special. But this one, the group of guys in here, I remember in San Diego, and I was just grinding. And literally nobody turned their back on me. They all were in there cheering me on in the cage while I was just hitting, telling me I'm good. I mean, I was taking live BP.
I remember.
And all of my teammates were there. All of them were there watching me. And so that's why it's just so special, man. I love each and every one of those guys in there. I just love being a Dodger, really.
Well, you know, every time you win a championship, like I said, this is your 3rd one. There's usually a point in the season where you say, you know what, this may be a special group, because all the teams you play on are talented. But there's usually a point where you say, this group could be different. When was that? Early in the season, middle of the season? When was it?
I want to say it was kind of late. We went through so many injuries, and it wasn't that we didn't think we could do it, but I think we were kind of looking at the mountain that we had to climb, and especially when I think Glass got hurt like the last month of the season, and Doc had a meeting in there, and he was like, hey, it is what it is. I believe in each and every one of the guys that we have in here going forward. And I think that was really a turning point. That's when we really came together. Each other is all we really had at that point, and I'm just glad we did it.
I got 2 questions and 1 for you. First of all, if you ever get tired of winning?
No, never.
Never, right?
Well, that's the reason why we play.
Okay, now you got to answer me. That ball that the fans yesterday tried to rub out of your glove. Yeah. What's going on? What went through your head, man?
That was wild, man. That was really wild. I've never experienced anything like that. I was telling my wife, that was like the 2nd time in my life I've ever wanted to fight someone. But I get it, man. I get it. You know, I don't know if he was trying to get the ball. I don't know what he was really trying to do. But he had to do what he had to do, you know, and it is what it is.
You're too nice. Because you're too nice and I'm proud of you. You get another one, dog.
I get another one, baby.
It's the championship, my dog, man. 3 World Series, man.
Yes, sir.
Give me a woo.
Mookie Betts, 3-time World Series champ and champions this year with the Dodgers. Mookie, you're the best, man.
Yes,
enjoy.
sir.
Go
Thank
enjoy
you,
with
guys.
your family.
Thank you, guys.
Go get him. Mookie.
Yeah, it's lots of great stuff there from Mookie Betts. And then before we get to that clip, though, so welcome to the show, Fernando. Glad you made it. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling okay right now.
Okay, very good.
Needed a little bit of sleep to feel better, but yeah, I'm good now.
Okay, good. So just to fill you in, we've just been discussing everything related to the World Series, Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam to win Game 1, how impressive the Dodger team was to win a championship, and then of course just talking about now the incident with Mookie Betts and the Yankees fan, who again we later learned was apparently a friend of Gronkowski from college. And I remember when it happened, I was just thinking, oh, what an idiot, dude! What's this guy doing, man? Does he honestly think he can fool the umpires? It was just pure comedy, really.
I just love how Mookie's like, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm like, yeah. But like, man, is it worth getting kicked out of the World Series? Spend a lot of money on that?
Well, those are season tickets. They can revoke your season tickets for life.
I know. Part of me, I mean, I didn't hear the full punishment. I thought I heard just the rest of the World Series maybe, but I'm like, you're interfering in a World Series game. Like, you should lose your tickets for at least a year, if not longer.
Well,
Like,
and
you gotta set a precedent.
my concern right away was, Mookie getting hurt.
Right.
You got a guy like twisting your arm and whatnot.
Yeah.
That
I
could
thought the
swing a
same thing. The
series.
grip that they had on his wrist and the position he was in, he had no leverage. He couldn't defend himself at that moment. And then the other dude grabbed his other hand.
Right.
And so he was up there in like
right. And I'm thinking if they yank and that elbow, I mean, I think it hurt his elbow.
Yeah.
Thank goodness he was okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's assault. They ought to be up on assault right there. It's
But I mean,
one thing to reach over and grab a ball that's in play, but to assault a player like that, to physically lay hands on a player.
Well, to try to steal his glove.
That's wrong. Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yankee fans.
Hmm.
That's why the Dodgers are talking trash about you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
fans did crap like that, so we're gonna talk the trash that you guys suck, and we kicked your butt, and we proved that you're overrated, and you're just over talented, but you can't play baseball.
Couldn't even
So
come up
suck
with a
on them
decent
balls.
Fat Joe.
Right.
Well, I mean, like Yankee fan tears are even better than liberal tears. I mean, it's just awesome, you know?
Hey, I thought I saw Mookie's visor mask. I thought it said Trump. It said champ.
Oh.
But all I saw was Yankee. I thought, oh look, he's a Trump fan.
Very nice. Well,
Yeah.
Fernando, I wanted to take the time to ask you, since you haven't had a chance to chime in, what did this World Series championship mean for you? What were the most memorable aspects of this postseason run for the Dodgers for you?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, it was pretty awesome. People were talking about the bubble championship, and for me it was like, well, why didn't your team win it? You know, but for this one, um, like it just seemed like Dave Roberts, like every decision he was made in the playoffs worked out. And there were a couple of mistakes, but they really didn't hurt him that much. So I think, like, for him, like, he's finally one of the great managers in the league. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I'm glad, like, Kershaw's no longer one of the top pitchers in the league, but he's still part of. He didn't really play much this year, but he's still part of the team. So that that core that they had back in 2020, I guess Mookie's the only one that's really left over from that. But
Austin Barnes too. Austin Barnes was on.
oh,
that
that's
team.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
Muncy
Joe
was
Kelly.
with that team too, but
Yeah,
he's not one of the
Muncy
top
Yeah,
was-
Muncy
players.
and Joe Kelly. I think those
Yeah.
are the main.
Once
the
he
guys.
joke, wasn't Will Smith
Kike.
there yet?
Oh yeah, Will Smith and Kike.
There's a
Hernandez.
couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a
Kike was
handful.
there,
There's
yeah.
a couple people.
Kike, yeah, but Kike was like more of a utility player back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to see him win. I was talking with Tad a few years back, right after that 2020 championship, and then, like, all those years they had the rookie of the year from Carroll, starting with Carroll's Piazza, Mondesi, Nomo, and then Hollinsworth, who really didn't end up being much after he got into the league. But it was just crazy that team never won. I think they got to the off season once, but didn't really make the playoffs. They got to the wild card round, and then and even the Sean Green era, like, they had a pretty solid team, and they made the playoffs like one year, and they only won like one playoff game.
It's all management then.
Yeah, so it's just I was telling my oldest son, I have two sons. The oldest one is 12. I told him, yeah, before the championship in 2020, the last time the Dodgers won was when I was 12 in '88.
Nice.
So, in fact, I had just turned 12 when they won. So I told him it was a long, 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 long wait to see them win again. And so I, just being a fan all these years, going to games, watching them, it just means a lot that they came through and won.
In fact, Fernando, you were able to make it out to the parade, right?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Went to the parade.
Nice.
Man, I will never do that again. Like, the parade actually made me want to hate Dodger fans because
I believe that.
Because it's free, so all the rabble was there.
The Raider fans came out.
So I got on the Metrolink train here at the Pomona North Station, just right on the border with Laverne. When I worked in LA, back from 2005 to 2011, I worked in LA. I'd take the Metrolink So and then I'd see people get on the train for the Laker parades when they won with Kobe and Gasol. So when I got on the train was already standing room only. And back when I was commuting to LA via train, it wouldn't really get packed until I got to the Covina or Baldwin Park station. But it was already packed, so we went,
wasn't
and
enjoyable.
it was cool getting off the train, going through the tunnel at Union Station, seeing this just huge crowd of people in white and blue walking past Olvera Street to go down to the parade route. But I think they estimated there were like 200,000 people there, and if you think about it, Dodger Stadium capacity is 55,000, so it was like 4 times the amount of Dodger fans there. And towards the end, like when for some reason I thought the parade started at 10, but it was at 11. And towards the, once it had started, there were just so many people. Like I thought I found a good spot. There was shade. There was like a little planter that you could sit on and all that right at it was like kitty corner from the Disney Hall. So I thought, oh yeah, this is a great spot. But sure enough, right when the parade was starting, it was just shoulder to shoulder of people. And I hate crowds. So
But you know what,
You're up on your
Fernando?
shots.
In 2000, when the Lakers won, I drove Derek Dupre down. We went to the parade because it was the first one the Lakers had won in quite some time. So people were asking me about the Dodger parade. Like, are you gonna go? Hell no. Like I did a parade. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun as you think it's going to be.
No, it's not.
And then they drive by and you're like, that's it?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
All that time you waited and that was it.
I was standing at that corner for like 3 hours just to see them drive by for like 2 minutes. So after the parade, Steve Vaughn was there, so we just texted him like, hey, are you going? He's like, yeah, I'm going. I'm like, oh, let's just meet in this area. And then I got there sooner, so I'm like, oh, let's go to this place. We met up and they were like, hey, let's go have lunch at Olvera Street. Everybody had the same idea.
Of course.
So we ended up going to a place just like a couple of blocks away from there. That it was like a soul food place that had po' boys and so on, stuff from New Orleans, Cajun food. So it was really good. We went there, and then all right, they were, Steve was taking an Uber back home, and he's like, yeah, screw this. I'm like, well, I'm stuck. I have to take a train. So walk over to Union Station. It was about 45 minutes in a crowded tunnel to get on the train. It was standing room only on the train, and then I get to my stop, so it goes to stops on this particular line. It's Cal State LA, El Monte, Baldwin Park, Covina, North Pomona, because there's one that's on the south side, and then Claremont, and then it's like on the San Bernardino. So when I worked in LA, the train would always be empty by the time it got to Covina. Like everybody would just get off there, and it would just be a handful of people still on the train. So going home, we got to Covina and it was still standing room only. And then we got to my station and I got off and it was still standing room only. I'm like, oh man, these are all the San Bernardino people, man. Oh, this really sucks. It's like no wonder. It's like no wonder I was like starting to get irritated for all these Dodger fans because they're like, oh, they're from out there. So yeah, I won't ever go to a parade again. Like that's it.
You did it once.
Yeah, that's it. Because you did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking like, oh, I should have, because my kids didn't have school that day, so I should have dragged them with me. Oh, they would have hated it. They would have hated it. So I'm glad I didn't take them.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So now we're at an interesting part of the season. It's the off season, and there's lots of potential moves that the Dodgers could make. I mean, to make sure that they maintain, being competitive like they've been doing season after season. I can't imagine this off season being as lucrative as last, where they signed Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto,
Right.
But I know that's a great question to present to everybody, especially Tad, because I know Tad really loves to play Dodger GM. What do you think the Dodgers should do this offseason as far as like moves and offering extended offers to certain players who are out of contract now?
So I mean, I think so. They announced today that Mookie's going to go back to the infield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is intriguing, right? Because that opens up right field. there's a big name that plays right field, right? He just played for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what his price tag is going to be. So I don't know if Soto is really how much of an option he'll be. Um, right. I think pitching, you always want to collect pitching,
Yeah.
right? They showed it this year. You can never have too much pitching because people are going to get hurt. And you need pitching at the end of the year. I think they'll try to go out and get one frontline starter. They're going to get a bunch of other guys back. I don't know, maybe you resign. I mean, if it was me, I think I would bring Kike Hernandez back. I think he's a key leader of the team. I don't know. It's tough. I think it's a tough one with Mookie moving back to the infield. I don't know.
Tails a free agent too.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to see them bring him back because he just crushes left-handed
Yeah.
pitching, and he's a right-handed bat. But I don't know, right? Maybe they say, hey, we've got the money for Juan Soto and Teoscar Hernandez. You could put Edman in center field. That's a pretty good outfield. To me, there's just so many question marks because of how much money they spent last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I mean, if they want the big name players, they could sign everybody. They have the money for it. Are they going to? I don't know. But I think pitching is where I would focus.
I think they'd be better off with spending money on a Blake Snell,
Yeah.
and not worrying about Juan Soto. Let him languish. He's one bad swing away from being yesterday's news. Honestly, I hate to say that about anybody, but I think he'd be, because he's asking for 700 million. I don't think he's going to get more than 3 or 4, but he's got Scott Boras, who's got a real penchant for hanging tight all the way through spring training and a couple of months of the year before he'll let his players go discounted.
And I think the thing you have to worry about is with how tight this clubhouse was and how much they credited to their success. I mean, is Juan Soto a good clubhouse guy? I mean, he certainly didn't seem to be that way in San Diego.
No.
I mean, it almost seemed like they were happy to see him go. So that's why I think I'm leaning more towards what Jeff is saying. I think you could bring back a Teoscar Hernandez. I think there's probably a guy out there who's a serviceable bat that plays good outfield.
Yeah.
And you can spend that money on pitching. I'm right, because Blake Snell's going to be available. I think Max Fried will be available. There's going to be some good pitching out there.
Teoscar is going to be affordable, and so is Kike. And both of those guys bring a spirit to the clubhouse and to the game that you can't put a price tag on. It goes above their statistics. It goes above their glove. Both of those guys would be excellent, and their farm system is so deep. I'm sure there's someone there that's going to be coming up playing in right field.
Well, and that they have the farm system, they can trade for someone too. Because I mean, I think they're going to have to work on the bullpen a little bit also. I know Training's a free agent. I love to see him bring him back. I think that guy is so good. So yeah, I think I'm with Jeff. I don't think you need a Juan Soto on this team. I think they can hit, get the pitching where you want it. And I mean, they're already the favorites to win next year. They haven't done anything yet. But I think they're just going to fill in the gaps. They're going to be fine.
That was kind of one of my questions I've been wondering about, is the common theme with this team is, and it takes me back to Gibson when he would say, like, what a team for 88. And like all the players, they talk about each other. And then you had Kike after the game saying, we don't give a F. Like, that's one of our things. So yeah, if you lose the attitude, changes the whole dynamic.
Well, remember,
and you can't keep everyone every year, but
and remember a year ago, I can't remember what player said it, but it kind of came up in interviews, with Corey Seager being gone and Turner was gone, and a lot of these, Jock Peterson, a lot of that crew left. They were asked a question and they said, well, this group cares more about winning than they do the statistics.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, I think it comes back to right? Right. We love Tommy Lasorda. I think the guy was the best motivator we've ever seen in the game, right? You're playing for the name on the front of your chest, not the one on the back. And if you get everybody on the same side of the rope pulling together, you're just going to be better than most teams, even if you're not the most talented. I mean, I think the thing this year was, I think they were the most talented and they were all pulling together.
Right.
Which is why they looked so good in the postseason. So if you can keep that together, which I think it's always hard from year to year to keep that kind of camaraderie going. But the core's coming back, which is going to be huge.
Yep. And then Otani had successful shoulder surgery, right? So he should be ready for spring training. So that'd be good. I know it hampered him during the World Series, but
I know they're saying, because I guess they play early again. They play games in March, I think in Taiwan.
Of course.
So I think
Japan,
is it Japan? No, Japan was this year, right?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Korea was this year.
Or was it Korea? I can't remember.
Korea.
It's either Taiwan or Japan, but they were saying he probably won't pitch in that series, but they're expecting him to pitch in April.
Will he hit in that series?
Yeah, he should. I think he'll be fine to hit.
I'm like, hey, you need the guy just for the PR over there.
Oh, yeah.
So what about Walker Buehler though? Keep him or?
I think it depends on the price. I mean, he was good in the postseason, but man, he was. Even he admitted it. He was so bad during the regular season.
Right.
And he's so fragile. He's like Dustin May. That Dustin May is like made of glass. I mean, he's unfortunately, and so you gotta wonder if Buehler is going to be worth it or not. There's too many guys that are better.
He reminds me of Darren Dreifert.
Yeah. But I think the big question with him is Tommy Johns. I mean, there's this myth in baseball that, I have a Tommy John surgery and I come back even better. That's really not true.
Twice.
But even when you have one, it's really not true that I'm stronger, I'm better. But twice, I mean, will he be durable for a full season? How effective is he going to be? Because we really only saw him effective in about 3 games.
Three at the most, 3. Yeah.
So how much money is he going to want? And if it's big time money, I mean, right, maybe you go out there and get, right, the guy who just opted out from the hated ones, or the guy who is a free agent from the Braves. I mean, there are options out there that maybe your money is better off spent on them.
Yep, I agree. I think so. I hate to say it because I love franchise players, but man, he's I don't think so. I don't know if Dustin May. I don't know what his problem is right now, actually. But I don't remember.
He had that esophagus tear.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, that's
a freak thing.
Oh, I gotta watch my language on this.
As if you could.
Anyhow, yeah.
We could always go get Trevor Bauer.
I wish they would.
I wish we would have this year.
How about Julio Rios? I mean, what?
Yeah.
I did think in the playoffs to close out. I thought back to 2020, and I said, man, if he was on this team to close that final game out, I would have felt a lot better than Buehler. And Buehler pitched great, but I would have felt better.
Yeah, because you're on pins and needles. You never know. Buehler's gonna which pitch is he gonna throw that's gonna tear another ligament or hurt his feelings, or who knows, dude. I don't know.
Just missed terribly.
Yeah. I'd rather see Joe Kelly go wild and being one of those idiots with 106 mile an hour fastball, just for fun.
Which is funny you bring that up. How many times do we hit Yankees? I felt like it was a lot that we hit, except for the first baseman who leans over and is the most hit guy in the MLB.
He deserves it.
Right.
Well, he gets on base that way.
That's
Well, those are some pretty big targets for one thing. Those are some big boys.
I was waiting. I'm surprised there was no retaliation. I just felt like we hit a lot of guys, and I was like, crap. We're good.
But you look at a lot of the times when guys were getting hit, and you could tell it wasn't purposeful.
No.
I
You
agree.
know?
I just felt like, man,
Yeah.
it's like number 5 or 6, it seems like at a certain point, you know,
Yeah,
someone's
but those
gotta.
right, those big guys. I mean, you go back to right. I mean, I love the baseball back in the day, right? The 60s and 70s, right? You pitch those big guys inside, right? I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
the guys that hit home runs, you gotta right. You gotta own the
Yep.
inside of the plate. If you miss and
Brush
hit
them
them,
off the plate. Brush them off the
yeah.
plate.
And
Yeah.
if you miss and hit them, and I mean, I
Yep,
don't think
part of the game.
I think Judge and Stanton are big guys, but I think they're pansies. They're not going to go out and charge the mound.
Right.
I mean, Joe Kelly will come out of that dugout and he's crazy.
No. Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
He'll get
He'll
you.
run out from the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get you.
Yeah.
That's why we love him. He's crazy.
He's all jacked up on Mountain Dew. It's going to go off on them like a spider monkey. That's cool.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's getting kind of late for you and for Nick, Jeff. But I mean, I wanted to talk about Fernando Valenzuela to pay homage to him for his passing this past year, and then obviously you would know him or would be probably better than any of us being in your 20s during the heyday of Fernando Mania. So obviously, I would love to hear from everybody, but particularly from Jeff. Like, what do you remember most about that time frame in like the early 80s of Dodger baseball?
Well, I'll tell you something. Real personal. I had just graduated high school, and I was working on Spring Street in LA, right down below Dodger Stadium, in my grandfather's cabinet shop in the afternoons. And me and 3 of my friends would, whenever there was a home game, close up. When I closed up shop, I would drive up the hill. And back then, I think the pavilion was like $1.40 or something like that. It was real cheap. And there were people in that neighborhood that would sell certain beverages and such to children who didn't have the proper ID. And we'd go up there and we'd hang out in the parking lot until the stadium had filled up, and then we'd go in and watch the game. I didn't really know what I was watching. I just saw this dude with a real awkward windup, looking up and not even watching where he was throwing the ball. And he was short. Comparatively speaking, I mean, this is a team with Rick Sutton on there that was 6'7". There wasn't Rick Sutcliffe was 6'7". He was the short. There was one guy shorter than Fernando on the team, but very few heavier. I've got the statistics here just to make sure that I'm right. And we would watch these games. And back then, I don't know if you all know the history of Chavez Ravine. But Chavez Ravine was a town. It was an actual town. And Los Angeles, the back hills there were rolling hills. The city came in and leveled all that, and make a long story short, through eminent domain, kicked everybody out, promising to build public housing for them, which never materialized. But they ended up bulldozing these people's houses. 80% of the residents just left and said, screw it, it ain't worth it. But it was all migrant farm workers that were inhabiting Chavez Ravine. And it sent a real bad feeling in the Mexican community, in the immigrant community of Los Angeles, against the Dodgers, because who came in but Walter O'Malley came in and built Dodger Stadium in like a year. Just put up this amazing structure. And then it took them a couple more years to get it all up and running. So in 1962, they opened. And I'm not sure, but I don't think there was a very active fan base amongst the immigrants or amongst Mexicans until Fernando started pitching. They had Mexican players before, but Mexican in the sense like Audrey's Mexican. She's is more American than I am. You know what I mean? But this kid came in, didn't speak English very well. Tommy Lasorda used to translate for him at press conferences, and it was one of the funniest things in the world that he would let Fernando answer 2 or 3 questions, and then Fernando would answer a question. LA Times asked him a question, and Fernando went on for a whole paragraph. And Tommy's translation was, "Fernando's tired of your stupid questions. The press conference is over. He says he's going home." That's not what he said at all. He answered the question. He was always very polite, very, very humble, did not understand what a phenomenon he was. pitched no hitters. He pitched full games. No one pitches a full game anymore. He pitched 150. He threw 150 pitches. I was just looking at his statistics. Aside from one real clinker of a year with the Angels, he ended up with a career ERA of 3.50, 3.5 over a whole career. That includes when he was old, and that's pretty darn good, you know. So from the aspect of opening Dodger Stadium and welcoming Chavez Ravine back, the actual Mexican community into Dodger Stadium, I thought that was amazing, because I've always been I grew up in El Monte. I grew up my best friend TC. You remember TC, Nick? Okay, TC was my best friend growing up.
Tuna can.
I thought, yeah, old tuna can. Can't talk about that on the podcast either. but you know what I mean? I thought I was part of that community. I'd look at me. I'm probably the least you could possibly, anyhow. So it welcomed the Latino community back into Dodger Stadium, and the pavilions came alive. You know, I was a kid. I used to go to the pavilions because it was affordable, the pavilion area. But now these guys were pounding Coors and Modelo and all these. It was incredible. It became a fiesta every time El Toro pitched. The place was very exciting. He was an amazing athlete. He hit. He got a Silver Slugger award. He would pinch hit when he wasn't pitching. He would pinch hit for Tommy, and he would do very well. He would get on base. He knew he had amazing control. So I would just say that about Chavez Ravine. That was one of those ugly things that happened when the metropolis started to spread away from central, the center of Los Angeles out. Yeah, and I've got a bunch of stories about that. I know some families that have their antepasados were actually part of that, getting kicked out in that eminent domain situation. And they share stories of how cruel government can be when you don't appear to have much power. But make a long story short, like I said, you wouldn't recognize the crowds at Dodger Stadium in the 70s, but in the 81 on was really something. And then I personally, I put my life went about 180 degrees in a different direction, and I went on a mission. I started serving in March of 1982, and so I didn't really get much of the next few years of Fernando Mania, but it was amazing to watch that core group. And he pitched. I was just looking here. He pitched with some amazing pitchers, with Bert Hooton, Steve Howe, Alejandro Peña, Jerry Royce, Rick Sutcliffe, Bob Welch. These guys were all his pitching mates or stuff. And he had Steve Yeager as a catcher. He also had Mike Scioscia, but Mike Scioscia was a youngster back then. Steve Yeager was a monster of a catcher. I don't know if you all know much about Steve Yeager. Yeah. He is why you can't.
My favorite player growing up.
Yeah. He is the reason why you can't run into a catcher anymore, because he was rendered unconscious so many times because he would sit there. He'd take a 3-point stance and wait for you to come to the plate, and it was a fight. It was on. That was his home plate. He took it very personally. And he was very exciting to watch, I think. Anyhow.
Awesome. Yeah, you painted a perfect picture, Jeff. It's just great to hear firsthand from your experiences, being old enough to experience it firsthand, Fernando Mania, and get to see Fernando Valenzuela play. Did anybody else have anything they want to chime in? Or,
yeah, I got some. Yeah. So back in the day, Albert and I's uncle had season tickets to the Dodgers, and being the oldest sibling, my dad would take me more than he would take Albert or Danny. But it seemed like every time that he was pitching, my uncle who had a sweatshop over in the garment district of LA, and then my dad rented out a little space and ran his business over there too, right off of San Pedro in the 10. He would give my dad the tickets whenever Fernando was pitching. So he'd go home, pick me up, and he'd take my grandfather or someone else, and we'd all go. So I honestly, like, I saw him pitch in person so many times I can't even count because we got those tickets like every time. And so yeah, I mean, he was my childhood hero, it sucked when he died, but the legacy he left behind, and like, you see how much the Latin community loves him.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And I did see this interview. I told Tad about it on Spectrum a few weeks ago. That what's his name? Honeywell, the relief pitcher. He's also a screwball pitcher. So he got some tips from Fernando. But the really interesting thing is his father is Mike Marshall's cousin. And I'm talking about Mike Marshall, the pitcher, not the outfielder.
First baseman.
Yeah, he did both. Yeah. So, and he's a relief pitcher that won a Cy Young Award with the Dodgers in the 70s. So he learned from two of them, from Mike Marshall and from Fernando.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a big loss for the team and the Dodger family and all, but it was really cool seeing, because I saw an interview with Oral Hershiser after that other interview, and he said, that Fernando got hurt in '88, like in May, missed the rest of the season, so he didn't pitch in that World Series, but he was still part of the team. He had surgery, and then he pitched, and he had that no-hitter 2 years later in 1990 at Dodger Stadium. So that was like one of the great comebacks. And it was feel good news. And I think like right after that, that's when he left the team, and it was really cool to see the other teams that he pitched for pay tribute to him when he passed. So the Angels, the Padres, and the Indians too. I think they all they sound, because like all those cities, they all have a lot of Latin fans there too. So that's like everyone's a baseball fan because of him.
Yeah, he helped grow baseball.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, I mean, like Fernando said, I think me and my dad went with him and his dad to a lot of those games.
Yeah.
And I think that right, for us as kids, we were going, like, is Fernando pitching was almost like the first question we wanted to know. Because we knew if Fernando was pitching, we were going to have more fun. And the thing I loved about him, especially as I got older, that I appreciated was because of him, right? He kind of brought all the different ethnic groups in LA together. Like when you came to watch him pitch, it didn't matter what race you were from and who you were sitting next to, right? You were family, right? Fernando was on the mound. You were all cheering for that guy. You didn't. I don't think we looked at him as a Dodger. He brought everybody together. He was a Dodger first. And so you didn't look at the people around you as like, oh, this is a Hispanic guy here and this is a black guy over here. You didn't see that as a kid because Fernando was on the mound. And I think for me, one of the things I've always done when I go to baseball games, even to this day, is right, I would look up into the booth to see Vin Scully and Fernando Valenzuela. Right. Like you wanted to look up and see those guys. And the thing that bums me out is we lost Vin. And that was heartbreaking for everybody. But it was almost comforting that, okay, Vin's gone, but I can still look up there and there's Fernando. Right. Fernando. I mean, there's something about Fernando being on the broadcast. I don't understand Spanish. I don't listen to the Spanish broadcast, but knowing that he was up there doing it made my heart smile. And so it's so a punch in the gut, right? To think I go next season to a game, I'm going to look up there and Fernando's not going to be up there. And the thing that I loved about looking up there and seeing him is it brought all those childhood memories back. Makes me think of Fernando. Makes me think of Albert. It makes me think of Nick. It makes me, right? It makes me feel like a kid again, reliving those experiences with my best friends. And that's what he, at least for me, even up until the day he died, that's what he did for me. You saw him on TV, you got a rush of all those memories and your buddies that you watched those games with. It was awesome.
Like quite often you could look up in the press booth and see Steve Garvey just sitting there. He's not commentating or anything, but he's part of the, Steve Garvey. Ron Say is always around. You can see him, and Davey Lopes used to be first base coach and stuff. It was nice to see those guys around. Mickey Hatcher shows up quite a bit. Seeing those guys, like you said, and it takes you back to when you were a kid and how much fun it was. Just absolute fun to be in the outfield, in the right field pavilion with all those fans. Like, it was amazing then, and it's amazing now because the flavor of the game was so improved that it's still there. The Dodgers are still the Dodgers, and I don't think they'd be the Dodgers the way they are now if it weren't for Fernando and those core groups through the 80s and 70s for that matter. Throw that in too.
My recollection of that time is I just remember being angry that Tad would get to go to a Dodger game and I had to stay home and go to bed because I was little.
Yeah,
but that's my memory. Is what you're going to a Dodger game? Freaking, I want to go.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I love getting together to talk sports and to reminisce on obviously modern history for the Dodgers, which is it's been awesome that it's been so great in recent years. And we got some World Series championships coming our way, I feel, in the next couple of years with the team that they put together. But then, of course, reminiscing on the past, making sure that it's documented so we never forget these memories. So thank you, gentlemen. This has been really, really awesome for me. Yeah. Any last minute thoughts before we wrap up? I know we're going pretty late for Dick and Jeff.
I just want to say they have a really solid chance of repeating it. I don't want to jinx anything and just let the team do what, let them make their moves, get another pitcher, whatever, re-sign both Hernandez's and so on. But I think they have a really good chance at that. I'm going to try and take my dad to a spring training game again this year.
Nice.
So we'll see. We went this past year. But he said, let's just go to the Angels Stadium because it's closer to his house. Because my dad, my parents
it's like
moved
going
up
to Whataburger because it's closer than In-N-Out, dude.
Yeah. But no, seriously, it took us 2 hours to get there from his house all the way in, it's Queen Creek, Santan Valley.
Oh yeah.
It took us 2 hours to get to Camelback Ranch. So, and then the Angels play in Tempe, I think, which is a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably just go there next time.
You just gotta, Fernando. You gotta just drop the, Dad. What am I teaching my children now? If I take you to the Angel game,
we'll go when the Dodgers are playing the Angels at their place.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
That was the.
But you know what I love about being a Dodger fan though, is that they could absolutely suck next year, and we'll still watch and we'll still show up because it's the greatest fan base
and still have the number one attendance
and still have the number one attendance.
And because we'll all turn on Dave Roberts.
We will.
but
Dodger baseball runs in our blood.
Yeah.
It's generational for all of us. We're fans because we had family before us that were fans.
Yep.
And they could be terrible and we'll go to games and we'll watch on TV. And the Brooklyn Bums, people still showed up. They broke hearts year after year, and they've done that to us here in LA, but we still show up because we love Dodger baseball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trolley Dodgers.
Yeah.
I remember when Ted and I were on our missions, like we'd write each other, and like the number one thing that we'd say that we missed doing as civilians was going to Dodger games.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I wish I still had any contact with those friends of mine that I used to attend games with, but after I left on my mission, I lost touch with all those guys. But it was a really good time because it was it seemed to me like almost every afternoon we were either meeting in Rosemead Park playing frisbee until we fell asleep on the lawn in front of the fort, or we went to a Dodger game. That summer was an amazing summer. Definitely.
Well, right when the O'Malley's owned them, a ticket was cheaper than the movies.
Yeah, I think it was like $1. I want to say $1.40
Oh.
to be in the pavilion. You know, it was.
I remember $6 in the
$6.
Yeah.
$6 in the early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we would go, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we would.
that
was
one of
why.
the things we would do. We had good memories making like Derek Dupre go.
Oh yeah, I think like there was one time like all of us went and we were just like making fun of everyone. And
Yeah.
remember that some guy was wearing like a wife beater and we started calling him Chachi.
I remember that.
That was funny, man. That was a good time. So
Good times.
yeah.
Yeah, you could do that with Derek in the crowd because for $1 he'd eat a cockroach and beat the crap out of anyone. Or you just at the point and say, "Hey, that guy just called your sister." You know, he'd like to date her, and that was it. It was on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, this has been so really awesome and great. We'll definitely have to get everyone together again to talk sports. There's never a shortage of sports topics to talk about. So again, even if we're just talking about past experiences, great. But again, the future looks so bright for the Dodgers. So it's going to be a really a long off season. But I mean, baseball will be here before we know it again. So.
Yep.
Well, hey, we won the World Series. It's a short off season for us, longer for everybody else.
Shorter for everyone else. Yeah.
Excellent
Get to
play.
be champions all of next year, even if we suck. We're champions.
Yeah.
Very cool. Jeff, Nick, Tad, Fernando, thank you so much, guys. This has been a blast.
Thank you, Albert.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Take care, everyone.